Did you know that the King James Bible is a modern English version? No, it's not. It's archaic. It has all these archaisms in it and whatever else. No, actually, the King James Bible is the result of many years of the English language forming and changing and whatever else to give us the best, the very pinnacle of the English language. In other words, it's not that the King James Bible is about here and then the Revised Version and then the American Standard Version and the New American Standard Version and the NIV. No, actually, the English language peaked in between the time of the King James Bible being finished in 1611 and into the 1700s when the spelling and everything was being formalized and whatever else. So your modern King James Bible has the Roman font that we're used to, not the Gothic font of the 1611, and it's got a lot of the different spellings of certain words are now, they're set. And so if you look at an old Wycliffe Bible from the 1300s or Tyndale from the 1500s, you'll see that they're not quite identical to the King James Bible. Now they're very similar and coming up through, the Bishop's Bible and the Geneva Bible and some of the different ones leading to the King James Bible. But the English language itself was growing, see, in that time period. And it got to the point where now the English language has been formalized, it's done, it's finished, and you get the very best English translation being the Authorized Version, the King James Bible. And since then, English has been going downhill. And people are saying, well, we have to have these new versions because nobody can understand the King James Bible. Well, that's not a logical statement because there are literally millions of people that understand it and rely on it for their life. I'm one of them. So to say people can't understand the King James Bible English anymore, that's a lie. Again, it's not a logical statement. But there's another big problem, another glaring inconsistency with this argument of, oh, well, the King James Bible, it's too archaic, it's too hard to understand. The other big problem with that is there are actually words in the new versions that are more archaic than the King James Bible. Wait a second. How is that possible? Oh, it is, and I've done studies on it. All right, and you can look it up. There's archaic words in the Authorized Version, I think is the name of the book, and it has a huge list in the back of many places where the King James Bible has a simple, easy to understand word, and the new version comes out and makes it more difficult. I can give some examples of that and things. I'll do that at the end of this video. But it amazes me that the hypocrisy of the new version users, they'll just kind of ignore this whole thing. Oh, well, they'll make fun of the archaic words, or what's the one fruity guy? He says they're familiar friends or unfamiliar friends or some kind of thing like this. Some fruitcake that comes out against the King James Bible. And I'm just saying what he is. He's effeminate. But he comes out and he says about, oh, there are certain words that have changed meaning over time. Oh, well, what about the Greek and the Hebrew that you hold up in such high regard? Has that changed meaning? Their points just fall apart. But if the new versions are only about updating the English of the King James Bible, then they would always use modern words to replace the archaic words of the King James Bible, and yet they don't do that. There are many times when they will use a more archaic word in their new version than the King James Bible. They make it harder to understand. Well, then maybe the reality of the situation is they're not actually updating the King James Bible. They're trying to replace it. You see, that's the real issue here. And why would we want to say, okay, the English Bible or the English language reached its peak in the 1700s, that's when the best level of English was out there. And now we have all the slang terms and people are losing their vocabulary. Children don't even learn how to write in cursive anymore in school. And our language is coming down. You look at the vocabulary of the average American today, or anybody in an English-speaking country, the vocabulary is far less words that they use than people in the past. Now, hey, what do you think of my property here? Cool. I guess they still say cool. Maybe, I don't know what they say now. But, back when I was a boy, back in the 1980s, was born in 1975, so I'm archaic, I guess. But back when I was a boy, it was, you know, they'd say rad. You know, it's radical, it's rad. And then it was cool. Are you happy to be here? Yeah, cool. Do you want a Dr. Pepper or something? Cool. You know, do you want to get pizza tonight? Cool. Everything's cool. The language, the vocabulary is coming down. And it's not cool. Okay, that's a bad thing. It's a sign of a society collapsing. It's a sign of people, when their language falls apart, they fall apart. Morale is going down. Not just morality, but morale is crashing. It's a terrible situation. So, just wanted to put together a little video, and like I said, I'm going to add on to the end here. I'll put a little thing about showing some of the archaic words in the new versions, and they have lots of them. It's not just one or two places, it's a lot of places where the new Bible versions actually change easy to understand words in the King James Bible into more archaic words. Alright, here we have the book I was talking about in my walk and talk video there. And basically he goes through and he shows a lot of the supposed archaic words in here and defines them. And then he shows that how the new versions change it and everything, how they'll write it. And then the really interesting thing is, and he'll even show some times in here where he's defining the word, he'll show where mainstream media, modern media actually uses the supposed archaic word of the King James Bible, proving it's not really archaic. But then you go into in here where he compares a lot of these. Like right here you have archaic words in the NIV. And like here you have the King James Bible. Here it says voice. And the NIV says acclamation. So yeah, voice is too hard to understand. You know, you have to go with acclamation. And he goes through a whole bunch of different things in here. And showing a lot of the other new versions and things, like this is the New King James Version. King James Bible says torn. They changed it to convulsed. Riot, King James Bible, we see plenty of that today. Dissipation in the New King James Bible. New King James has the word gecko. King James Bible has ferret. I don't think geckos and ferrets are the same thing. So, highly recommended book right here. Archaic Words and the Authorized Version. Advanced Publications. You can find this book different places. Just do a little search for it. But this whole book here, this completely destroys the whole argument that the Authorized Version has horrible archaic words that you can't understand. That's a lie. And a lot of these guys, they don't want to talk about that. They just want you to think, oh, the new versions, you know, if you can't understand the King James Bible, then you should get a new version. And we have new manuscript evidence that's come out since then, and now we have a better understanding of what the original Greek probably would have said. No, you don't. No, you don't. In fact, most of the manuscripts that they find line up with the received text that underlies the King James Bible. They don't tell you that either. And, well, we found Codex Sinaiticus. No, actually, it was written in the 19th century by Constantine Simonides. Fact. It's a fact. They don't want to admit it because there's a lot of money involved, you know what I mean? And all the seminaries and all the different Bibles that have been printed and made millions and millions of dollars. See, if they have to actually come out and admit that Sinaiticus was a fraud, it was a forgery, then that would cost them lots of money. People would be throwing their new versions out and all kinds of stuff, and oh, we can't have that, you know. But all the evidence points to it, that it was a 19th century forgery. I mean, just even the story. Oh, Constantine Simonides, he went to St. Catherine's Monastery there on the Sinai Peninsula, and he goes in and the monks were using pages of the Sinaiticus manuscript to start their fire. And I repeated, that's what I was taught years ago. And so I repeated that for a long time. But then you get to thinking, wait a second. Sinaiticus was written on vellum. Sheep skin, leather, you know. Now I have a wood stove here at my property And I've lit thousands of fires over the years for my wood stove. It's our only source of heat. It's what I prefer. And growing up, we had a wood stove. That was our only source of heat. I love wood stoves. So I lit thousands of fires. And you know something? I never used a piece of leather to light a fire. Didn't matter how desperate we were. We'd find some kind of paper or tissue or some kind of thing, light the fire with that. You don't use leather to start fires. And yet this lie has been told so many times that people believe it. Oh, yeah, Constantine von Tischendorf, the guy that found Sinaiticus, he comes back and he says, oh yeah, I found this manuscript. There's a whole bunch of stuff missing. It's because the monks were lighting fires with it. It's not possible. If you don't believe that, you say, well, I don't know if I can believe you. Okay, get a piece of vellum, a piece of sheep leather, and go out and try to light a fire with it. Okay? And the pages of Sinaiticus, many of them were white, too. So it's not, oh, it was really old, dried up leather, and that's why you could light a fire with it or something. No, they were white. Okay? Some of them became tan for some reason, but that's another part of the story. So don't fall for this thing that the King James Bible's archaic, it's too hard to understand, and whatever else. That's a bunch of nonsense. So that's going to be it. Thank you very much for watching.